Okay. All right. Welcome to the Older Vermonters Caucus. Thanks for being here today. I have a couple announcements that I thought I would start with, and if anybody else has some, I'll have you talk about them next. So one thing that's happening today, I got an email that Bernie Sanders is having a town hall around older Vermonters issues. It's an older Vermonter town hall. It's a phone in. Sure you can find it on his website. It's with AARP. And that is tonight at 5 o'clock. And then next week, the Older Vermonters Caucus will have an update on Age Strong. And we will also have a resolution on the House floor at 1 o'clock, and everybody is invited to come to the State House and, witness the resolution being read on the state floor, on the House floor. And that will be Older Vermonter Caucus at noon, and then the resolution will be at 1 o'clock after the caucus. And I believe the Age Strong folks are going to be here in Dale and Department of Health in the card room all day. So there'll be a bunch of stuff happening next week. And the last thing that I want to make sure people know about is the State Plan on Aging is open for public comment. I believe you can find that on the link to that on the Dale website. So those are some three announcements that I have. Anybody else have anything upcoming that they'd like to bring up here at our meeting?
Oh, boy.
Okay. So today we're going to hear from our adult days, if I can say it without stumbling. I have Erin and Nicole. I've known Nicole for a while. She used to run the Meals on Wheels in Lamoille County. Fantastic. Working at Adult Day now, which is excellent. So I don't know if you've decided who wants to go first to talk about your work and how we can support you here at the State House.
Go for it, Nicole.
I'll start.
All right.
And let Erin take over. So Nicole Fournier Grabber with Care Partners Adult Day Center. We have on average about 40 participants each day. And we have about 92 active participants. We touch over 250 or so families' lives each year. We have had a wait list for a couple of months now. So we have two wait lists, one to just get in, and then we have also a moderate needs group waiting list for moderate needs group funding. So we have tapped out all the funding that we had assigned to us. So we need to just kind of wait until we can get some more people or until we can get more funding. Or other people move on from our services. So Care Partners is one of 11 centers, and we all belong to Vermont Association of Adult Day Services, also known as VADS. So we try to, kind of all work together for the greater good of adult days. Services adult day centers provide that you might not know is nursing care, medication management, personal care, social and recreational activities, therapeutic programming, meals and nutrition, and most importantly, in some cases, is caregiver respite support. So our main payer source is typically Medicaid. Medicare does not cover adult days. It's important to note. So we have Medicaid waivers, some state funds, private pay, and then donation. Right now, our reimbursement per hour is $26.28. We have to be, we have oversight through Dale. So every 3 years, we have to be recertified. So we're all going through that recertification process now with Dale. Positive outcomes, people get to remain at home longer. They get, reduced nursing home placement. It's, that rate is reduced and hopefully stopped longer. And critical respite care, that families and caregivers need. Some challenges that I think I speak for all of us that we face is, workforce shortages, Medicaid reimbursement rates really not covering all of our expenses, program closures, sadly, because of some of those, issues that I mentioned, and also transportation. Transportation continues to be a challenge for us. I'll give you an example. Right here in St. Albans, Vermont, where we're located, popular Fairfield with all the maple sugar is happening right now, maple season. I can't get one person here from Fairfield because there's absolutely no transportation. So we are exploring a grant and possibly getting a vehicle so that we can do a Fairfield run and help the people in need in Fairfield, Vermont. So just something to note. We all have, we have Dale oversight and we all have a registered nurse as well. We are small, being 11 in the state of Vermont, almost 12, which Aaron will tell you more about. But we're a big essential part. We're small, but we're essential part of the long-term care system in Vermont. So definitely come check us out, come see us, learn more about us, and all the things that we do here. Thank you for the time today. Let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole.
Yeah.
Hey, I just wanted to kind of get some more information on your wait list. So I heard you talk about funding, access to funding, and is it both funding and capacity, or do you have the capacity but not the funding? If you could just expand on that a little bit.
Sure. So some of it's capacity. So we have a capacity wait list, just because we're full right now. We can only have 40 people with the square footage that we have here, unless we're able to expand. And then some of it is also funding. So moderate needs, it's a pocket of money that's split up between the 11 adult day centers. And we've tapped all of ours out, plus probably about 25% more. So they're both problems.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and is this do you hear about it from other providers?
Other adult day centers? Yeah, so I'm not knowledgeable enough to speak on the other adult day centers, but I have heard adult day centers that struggle because of transportation, so they're not full, so they risk closure because they're not meeting their financial needs. And I have heard also because of staffing shortages that, they have a waiting list because they're not able to bring those participants in because staffing shortages.
Yeah.
So I have heard those things.
Yeah, I know transportation has been a problem across all providers, everybody who, whether in healthcare or the work that you're doing. I mean, transportation in rural Vermont is definitely tricky. And I even, looked at some of the senior centers that are not on fixed transportation routes. And, it's interesting that, we need to continue to work on that definitely here as well. And
Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. No.
Well, so interestingly, so RCT just merged with GMT here in Franklin County. And the model is, volunteerism. As you know, Dan, I have quite a lot of experience with building a program based off volunteers and and really rely on it to run off volunteers. And transportation, obviously it's an opinion. I don't know if, our transportation problems can be solved, through waiting for volunteers to come transport, especially to critical needs like adult day centers, the services provided here. So it makes me nervous that, that is the model, and we continue to be kind of let know that, until we get more volunteers, we just really can't expand your routes. And it's like, oh, but I don't know if you're going to get more volunteers, to do such an important job. It's not necessarily such a volunteer task, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we've had some discussion here about, how do we access volunteers? And one of the things that I've proposed in the past is to have a checkbox when you register your car that you want to learn about volunteering, because we know you have a car that's registered then. So,
Idea.
I know it's been ongoing. It's like, how do we tap into, make sure people understand that the need is there and that, that they could it's a volunteer opportunity for people because it is a great need. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
and
think
just,
I
go
might
ahead.
add to the transportation part of it is so in building a new program, which, essentially we're trying to build a sustainable business model because we want to stay open, and serve the population. We're factoring in purchasing vans simply because in creating a business model, I'm not willing to hang my hat on either public transportation or necessarily just volunteers. Do we plan for volunteers? Absolutely. But can we structure our success on volunteers? No. And so
Yeah,
we need to know, particularly for the Medicaid folks who, we get paid by the quarter hour. So if they don't show up or they're late or they forget, or they don't have a ride, or the volunteer gets sick, then we don't get paid, even though we're fully staffed for however many people. We don't have that income to justify that number of staff. So
why don't you, yeah, thank you for that input, and why don't you expand on your work, what you're up to, Aaron? Really have been following you for the last, I think it's been 2 years, right, that you've been working on this, maybe more. So why don't you give us an update on what you're up to?
yeah, and as I go along, Nicole, if you find things to springboard off of, just holler. So yeah, 2 years ago, I had been working on an idea to bring an intergenerational care center to central Vermont, that being an adult day and a child care center co-located. This was an idea that I got from a place called the St. Anne Center in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which has a similar setup, an adult day and a child care center, just on a larger scale. And so about 2 years ago, Senator Rich Westman allocated some funds for us to do the development of this project. And that's we are coming to the end of that development grant. And I can give you kind of a little rundown on how things have played out. And to go back, my name is Erin Clark, and I'm a home health nurse by trade, but hoping to be the executive director of Generations Vermont in a couple of years. So I had seen this need for elder care in the community through my work as a home health nurse. But so we got our funding in August of 2024. Yes, 2024. And we held community meetings. We built the framework for a nonprofit, recruited a board, created a business plan, a website, and we partnered with a childcare provider from Windham County who was interested in expanding. At that point, we were looking for a space for this to host this, and that took a lot longer than we expected. So I would say my observation in this time is there's not a lot of infrastructure that could support this. And I was pretty set and still am pretty set on it not being quote unquote a church basement, so that we have a space that is welcoming and respectful and that people want to basically show up to, not something that was kind of an afterthought, like, oh, we could put them here or, squeeze it in there. So the space that we're creating is going to be very specifically adapted to adults with mobility issues, with cognitive impairment, and then, of course, the daycare part of it, which not a lot of daycares get to design their own space. So that's something that's really fun. And we have ended up with our best option being building a new building. And although it is not a cheap option, we did a lot of searching. So during the course of the grant, we kind of like did everything we could and then started our search for could have been a building or land or some kind of partnership. And in the end, it ended up being land that we got. And so that comes with opportunity, but it also comes with a pretty hefty price tag. We, in November of 2025, signed an option agreement. So this is kind of like an agreement that a landowner will work with us or a property owner will work with us as we move through the federal grant application process and permitting process, and not sell the property that we're looking at. And that was a big hurdle for us in looking for a space, because most traditional real estate sales, they want the money in a timely fashion, not a year later. So we were actually ended up being approached by Stellar Healthcare, who is now the new owners of Berlin Health and Rehab. And they were interested in some kind of partnership. And it's ending up being a fairly arm's length partnership. But our plan right now, although not firmly executed, is that we will buy a 5-acre lot from the owners of Berlin Health and Rehab. And we're in the site design phase of building a center. It's about 8,000 square feet, housing both the adult day and the child care center. It's in Berlin, so obviously very close to Berlin Health and Rehab, just down the street, close to the hospital, easily accessible by, from Barrie, from surrounding towns, from Montpelier. I think I want to stress specifically that this is a regional project for central Vermont, because I've had people say, oh, well, too bad it's not for Montpelier. No, it's definitely for Montpelier. It's definitely for everybody in this area. It just happens to be located in Berlin. And yeah, so it's very exciting. We're hopeful to do kind of a lot of innovative programming for adults and for children, but specifically to have time when the two groups come together to do activities, whether it's even just to, have a performer come in and everybody watches together, or to have a snack together, or to do story time together. There's like a million opportunities to kind of enrich everybody's experience. And I'm hoping also it will give the feeling of being more of a community center as a place for older people to go, so that people don't feel like they're isolated or stigmatized by, like, oh, well, I go to a place that's for old people. This is a place for community, and we happen to focus on older adults, adults with disabilities, and kids under 5. So that's kind of a nutshell version of brings us up to where we are today, with our site design, that we're putting together with the architects. We hope to launch a capital campaign here starting at the end of June, because we'll have a picture, and a picture is really worth a lot to be able to say, this is what we're hoping to build, and please contribute. So our financial wells now are several federal pots of money, congressionally directed funds, although I don't have a lot of eggs in that basket, but I'm rooting for either Welch or Bernie to come through. And also a private donation goal of 1.4 million. So not a small goal.
No, that's for sure. This is such a great model. I really love the fact that you're, that multi-generational. I think that it'd be great to see this in other places in Vermont. So I'm rooting for you to make this happen, because I really think it's a good idea. Have you been able to network with the childcare aspect of it? And just how are you feel you're being received by that? Because I know the need for the adult day work that you're doing is really important in central Vermont. But I'm just wondering about the childcare providers, what your thoughts are with your interaction there. And
So we've worked with kind of a branch off of no, I'm drawing a blank.
Let's Grow Kids type.
Yes, Let's Grow Kids. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Children's First Finance
Yep.
are kind of they're the all-knowing, all-seeing group that I refer to often as far as what's going on with childcare in the state and what kind of funding opportunities there are. And Melanie Zinn, who is the CEO of Horizon Early Learning, is the person who I'm partnering with. And she has 3 other successful childcare businesses in Windham County. She has a method, and we're definitely, couldn't be a better match between the two of us. But essentially, as a business model, we, like Generations Vermont, will be creating the space with her, but we will be renting it out to the childcare business. And then we have an understanding that if she wants to move on at some point, that we have the opportunity to buy that childcare business, to be part of Generations Vermont. But at this point, because childcare is her specialty and a very complicated one, I am super happy to have her do that, and I'll focus on the adult day.
Yeah, fantastic. I can definitely see that. And so you said that you're kind of looking at one that was in Minneapolis. Where was it? Minneapolis or Minnesota?
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, sorry. Yeah, so are there other ones around the country that you've heard about?
So there are some. There's many variations. So some could be intergenerational housing. Some could be where they have an on-site daycare in a nursing home. So the adults are residential there, and they have intergenerational programming there. I went to visit one called Harbor House in Louisville, Kentucky, and they were just opening the daycare section, and they had an adult day, although their census, I think, was more towards the adults with disabilities, but they were also doing this, co-located programming.
Hmm. Yeah, I just think it's a great idea. You could even work with senior centers. I could just see that matchup in different scenarios. But I really like the work that you're doing. Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions besides me? Keep asking questions. Angela.
I just wanted to add that I know that Nicole mentioned that there was a grant that they applied for transportation. In the Adult Services Division, we have a Money Follows the Person capacity building grant. And we determined that we had some additional funds that were going to be that really needed to be used by August of this year. So we sort of quickly put out a notice of funding opportunity for adult days to apply for funding to purchase vans for transportation, because we know that transportation continues to be a challenge for a lot of our adult days. So I think at this point we have three.
Yes, that's one is mine.
Yeah, we have three applicants for that.
Yeah.
So we're really hoping that that this can make a difference for adult days to address transportation.
Nice.
That's great to hear because I don't know, well, I think we know, but I don't know if any of our listeners that, Medicaid reimbursement is based on participation. So that's where I always see this disconnect around adult days is that, you have someone who's regularly coming, they have a doctor's appointment, they maybe have some family visit. I know you're all relying on them to be there because that's your revenue. And that's how you pay your staff and keep your lights on and everything. And so if someone doesn't have access to transportation as their barrier to getting there, it's probably solvable. Obviously, if someone has family visiting or has a doctor's appointment, that's a totally different issue. So I just know that I wish there was a way for us to work around that. And also with the Medicare, you'd think that, there was an opportunity there to have that ability to have that payer mix also. Obviously that's a federal change, but, I'm surprised that it's not more prevalent in the work of our congressional delegation to maybe try to fix that at some level because not everybody is not everyone has access to the Medicaid funds and then the limitations that are on those. So,
Right. So a lot of adult days do a sliding scale, and my plan is to do a scholarship essentially, so the total cost of when we figured it out of cost per hour per participant for our center is $35 an hour. And that's about what like a private pay, somebody who's coming into your home, that's generally what they charge is 35 an hour. Obviously we might earn some efficiencies here as we go, but then inflation goes up. But my concern is mostly for the kind of middle income folks who, are not eligible for Medicaid. And how, how can we make these programs accessible to them?
Yeah.
People who live in their home, have savings, have been very diligent about looking out for their retirement, and yet they have a caregiver or they have a person who needs caregiving and needs respite, and they're cared entirely for by their spouse who is also aging. You know, they're not going to be able to afford $35 an hour.
right.
So how can we make this more an attainable service for those middle income folks?
Mhm. Yeah, and I, yeah,
A lot of long-term health insurances do cover adult day. Just to note that, but we all know long-term health care insurance is super expensive. But we have been able to get long-term health care cover.
mhm. And I remember when you folks were here last year, or the year before, we talked about the stigmatism associated with adult days and how one person said that they were caring for their mom or their dad, and they were like, oh, I don't want to go there. And then they finally got them to go there once and they wanted to go there every day. They had so much fun, you know, they're like, how come I didn't know about this sooner? So, you know, probably we have some work to do around making sure that people that are caring for a loved one, whether they're eligible for Medicaid or not, know about the services and, stop by and check it out because I remember hearing that and it kind of resonated with me that like, yeah, that might work for some people, especially, if they're, a caregiver and need, some respite. I can see how would be helpful. Yeah, Nor.
Hi, everyone, and I'm just interested in at Hunger Free Vermont, we work on the childcare side of the child and adult care food program quite a bit. And I'm just wondering, like, we've identified a lot of barriers and challenges to using that program for childcare providers, and some barriers and challenges in terms of the communication and connection and kind of support that's offered to providers to use that program by the state agency that licenses childcare, and the fact that the food program is administered in the Agency of Education, which is a totally different department from that. And I'm just a little curious, if your programs, do you even use the CACFP? And have you also encountered, I mean, also the reimbursement rates are way too low. We all know. But I'm just curious about your experiences and if there might be any like advocacy or support that Hunger Free Vermont could engage in on your behalfs.
Yeah, so I mean, when I first came to Adult Days, we did use the CACFP program for the first year, and the bookkeeping for that program was so cumbersome. It just was not, it was not worth the reimbursement that we were getting. So so we ran the numbers without it, and we just decided we were better to run our own program and drop the CACFP program. I would say, at least 80% of the people that we serve are on Medicaid, so they are they are a lower income and could be food insecure and most likely are in some cases. So we definitely putting our heads together and any help, whether it's to subsidize the program. I've been kind of ranting lately about, well, like, I'm coming from Meals on Wheels and me, Anor from school food. Can we meet somewhere in the middle and have a program like the Meals on Wheels program, and we still meet nutrition regulation, but the bookkeeping is just user friendly and manageable and still get the reimbursement rate. So I've been trying to kind of sell my story there because I just was not prepared for what the expectation of CACFP program. Yeah, I was not. I was like, what? Like, there's no way we could manage this.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
and
I've
not-
heard similarly.
not an audit. Yeah.
Yeah, although I don't use that yet, I've definitely considered what that program could do, given that will have both children and older adults. But I have been warned that it is a cumbersome task to monitor and record and keep everything just so, in order to, and even that the systems aren't necessarily quite logical, like their rounding rules are different. So, so yeah, I'll have to cross that bridge when I come to it.
Yeah,
Well, we're
thank you.
definitely here to offer some support in that, and we are doing advocacy around how to lift those burdens. I mean, a lot of it is federally imposed, and there's got to be a way to make things easier for providers. So that's been it's a long-term challenge, but we're still in it. So This is helpful to hear. Thank you, Nicole and Aaron.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Joan, do you have a question? You're muted, Joan.
I know.
Oh, there you
I
are.
have a question.
I didn't know if you had a
Thank you.
question or something.
Yeah. Here in southeastern Vermont, most of the people who need adult day fall not within the Medicaid or the private pay financial scale. What programs are available to the average Vermont family who is working only with Medicare?
So our program's available. It just would be it'd be a private pay situation, or some people
You can't
are able
afford
to
it.
offer sliding fee scales. There's that as well.
Yeah,
Right.
the only problem that we see is the sliding scale is great. It can help people, but it can't be sustainable as a consistent model for an adult day because it won't meet the cost of caring for the person. Which
You're right.
means
That's why we
you
can't
can't-
offer it, unfortunately.
Yeah, you
Right.
can't, you have to balance your population funding, because if you don't get the funding, if you can't charge enough, you can't hire staff. You can't hire staff, you can't bring in more people.
Yeah.
And with so many people in our region, if they can have 1 day a week of adult daycare, they are thrilled. But they cannot afford the 5 day a week, which means they can't keep their job, which keeps the family afloat, because the cost of adult day outstrips their income.
Right.
So
So,
they're forced to stay home and take care of their loved ones.
yeah, Joanne, I've thought that, and this is super pie in the sky, but I'm good at pie in the sky. Um, so the Let's Grow Kids came up with a 0.5% payroll tax.
Mhm.
You know, obviously it was not a popular thing, but they got it pushed through to do the child care subsidy. And that basically allows child care providers to provide to charge a rate that reimburses their staff appropriately, but also then allows working families to send their children to daycare, because the cost, it's the same thing, right? It's the cost of care doesn't match people's income.
So where's the subsidy come from?
It's a payroll tax of 0.5%.
Yep.
Is there such a thing for older Vermonter care subsidy?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
There is
I
not,
want
but
it.
if you look at the population projections, we may be able to shift it at some point.
You're gonna have to.
Allie
Otherwise,
Richards is
I'll tell
not
you
going to
what's
be
gonna
happy
happen.
about that.
You know what will happen? People are just gonna leave the state, and then there'll be no income for the state because there'll be no taxpayers. I know a lot of people, because I facilitate 4 memory cafes in our region. And there are people who could not find any place for their loved one. So they moved to another state where things didn't cost so much and were more available. And I'm not complaining, but if we don't fix it now, it's not going to be pretty. So I think if there's a way to get that elder care subsidy, so that at both ends of the age spectrum, we have our people taken care of.
Amen.
Because they can't, you're 85, you can't go get a job.
Right. Well, that's why we run the
Work
Older
on it.
Vermonters Caucus every week. There's always another issue that we need to be talking about in this building, whether it's adult days or access to food and our Meals on Wheels programs and senior centers. You know, the need is great, and the funding is very limited for sure.
Okay,
Yep. I hear you. I'm doing what I can.
I know.
Tell your reps.
I'll agitate
Always
for
looking for
that.
partners.
If anybody needs me to be a pain in the butt, Just let me know.
Yeah, okay. Well, I really appreciate Erin and Nicole for coming today and in your work around working at Adult Days and making sure people have access to these services. And Erin, I'm gonna keep following your work and let me know how I can be helpful. Really appreciate everyone today. And next week, we're gonna be 8 strong here, followed by a resolution on the floor. So come on to the State House. It's a pretty cool place.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you
Yes,
so
thank
much for
you.
being here. Everyone have a great week.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so
Bye.
much, everybody.
That's like her, what is her job?
She, I believe, is